All right, welcome back to the NatRevMD Podcast. So most physicians, they're not leaving medicine because they hate patients. They're actually leaving because they're drowning in charts, they're running on empty, they're convinced there's no other way. But guess what? Today's guest, Dr. Sarah Smith, is actually going to give you another way and talk about how she helps physicians survive that overwhelm and the system she's built and the course that she has that helps physicians really be able to figure this all out and be able to enjoy medicine again. So with that, welcome, Dr. Sarah Smith. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. All right. So let's just start first with what's your background? What kind of physician are you? Talk to us a little bit about your practice. And I know you've been able to practice in many different scenarios. So tell us more.
Sure. So I am originally a GP from Australia, and that means family physician. We went to Canada for 12 years, which was super fun. So I do clinical medicine inside an outpatient department as a family medicine doctor. Then I also have worked in rural emergency departments, inpatients, palliative care, long-term care, locumed in the Australian remote areas. So yeah, lots of different places.
You've been successful, you've been practicing, and practice can be challenging. It can be one of those things where you wake up every day and you're like, okay, how am I going to figure this out? So talk to us about maybe some of the challenges that you've, seen and experienced in working in practice, and then those tips that you've used in order to improve your sanity.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go back a little ways and say that this was me for the first 15 years of general practice and family medicine. It is really, really hard to see patients and get the work of the day done. And I didn't think it was at all possible to have a different experience of what I was having. So that looked for me like staying hours after the last patient left, having to dash home because I've got little kids at home and it's dinner time. It's time to be home for dinner, and then trying to figure out how to get the rest of the work done. That could look like initially, when we didn't have login from home, coming in on Saturday or Sunday or both to get it done for hours and hours, and just really feeling like I was missing out on time with the family, time for the weekend, time for rest. And this is the experience when I'm talking to physicians and clinicians. I was talking to a group recently, and there were more than half a dozen who are working more than 30 hours a week outside of the clinical day. So this is a really big pain point. And for a lot, it's only maybe 5 or 6 hours, but that's 300 hours a year that we could be spending on something much more fun than a second job that doesn't pay us often. Most physicians aren't being paid for this working after hours. In fact, we're diluting our income, so we're earning even less than we would have otherwise. So for me, I was 15 years, and this took me from Australia and into Canada, and it still followed me. So it's clearly a me problem, and I didn't know how to fix it. I was angry if somebody mentioned, oh, by the way, we're going to be doing this now, and they wanted something else measured or metrics for a patient care. And that would just, don't you understand? It's hard enough already. And you want me to do what now? Or learn a new EMR or learn a new billing system. If the ground rules change, or they're changing out the MA, or we're losing a physician, it just became a massive challenge, because you're like, I'm already stretched way too far. So I didn't think this was possible to fix. For me, it became in about 2018 a journey where I heard of a coach who was just talking about general improving your quality of life and how we can have some autonomy about how we feel. And I don't have to just feel angry all the time at work. There was joy. I liked my patients, but there was feelings of being trapped and dreading it. And I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to do it in this way anymore. I didn't want it stealing my life anymore. And so the process of just step by step saying, well, what if I could create something different? What if I did want to get home at the end of the day with everything done? How would that look? What would I have to start to change? And the process of stepping towards something for me that I wanted and for my family. Mm-hmm. And that transition, so then the transition from where I was, which was hours and hours after the clinical day, and this is the experience for many of the physicians, into, well, I see patients, and then I close that last chart and I go home and I've got nothing left to do. And that is such an incredibly different experience. You feel like you have bucket loads of time, And then you just sit around thinking, what do I do with myself? Because I've never had this experience before in my working career. And so clearly the next step is I must share this with my people.
Yeah.
And saying that, hey, did you know that it's possible to have a different experience? And nothing changes, not the number of patients, not the EMR, not the location that I'm working, not the people I'm working with. It was all about me and how I was doing things differently within the clinical day.
And I mean, I can just imagine that feeling of, like comfort, like, okay, I'm not crazy. I feel that way when all my emails are answered. Mm-hmm. And they will never all be answered in my world. I will work in administration and run a business. So they'll never all be answered. But the main ones, the important ones, when I have that feeling of like, I'm just going to go watch TV, or I'm just going to go take the dog for a walk with my kids, and, feels really good. So I can imagine that like moment. Okay, so you have figured this out. And would you say that you have good days and bad days, or do you feel like, okay, no, I've checked the box, like I'm good 100% of the time?
Okay, so here's the thing about all of us in clinical medicine is the ground shifts under us all the time. And so right now I'm covering a colleague's inbox and her practice in a different location to my usual. Now, I signed up for that. I'm like, yes, please.
Yeah, you did this.
Help you so you can have a whole month out of country without having to even think about your inbox. And so what that requires now is I need to think about how do I structure my week so I can take on 2 inboxes, have a whole set of patients that I don't know, and I'm going to be seeing a whole lot of new patients. So that obviously takes an additional 2 or 3 minutes per visit as you're seeing the patient. So we can now learn and adapt and pull those strategies into a new location with a new set of patients, with a new set of staff, the EMR is the same, fortunately. That makes it easier. But the inbox is different. So it's inbox different to my usual location of practice. So it's how am I going to manage this, knowing that each of the things in her inbox, I don't immediately know why that was ordered. I don't know what the situation was. I now need to give myself a few extra minutes to go and have a quick look at the last, why was this ordered? And how do I get this out of the inbox as fast as possible? So I'm going to look at that information, attach it to what I know about the patient, and then I've set up my calendar at her place so that I have ample room to bring them back in so I can talk them through their results and make the next plan for them.
So it sounds like so obviously you wouldn't have signed up for this had you not been able to manage this. So to me, This means I'm signing up for this because I know I've got a rock solid plan in order to get this done. Yeah. So give 1 or 2 tips that you use to kind of manage your day so that you're not, working 30 hours outside of the office or even 5 hours outside of the office. Like, how do you, what are your top secrets?
Yeah. So its foundational work is let's see the patient and get the work of this visit done before we see the next patient. Now that can feel impossible where you are right now. And that's okay. It is not a by tomorrow you must. It's a what if we thought about how am I going to see this patient and have everything about this visit done before I move to the next patient? What would that start to look like? And it looks different for all of the different physicians and clinicians. It's not my way is the way. And for me, it's actually changed depending on location. So in Canada, we would have 2 clinic rooms and an office. So I would go to the clinic room, I'd do my notes in real time, I'd type them in the room and go back to my office for a phone call or a televisit or inbox, and then go to the next patient room. I wasn't transferring patients in and out. In Australia, we pull people in and out of the same room. And that takes at least 2 minutes. So I've actually started employing some AI now so that I get a couple of 2 minutes back. Now, I give it 2 out of 5 stars at best. It's a helpful tool. It is not taking the work of the visit. I still have to do all of the check it for accuracy. I have to still do all of the, the order forms, requisition forms, your x-ray, all of the referrals, all done in real time. And as the patient leaves the room, the notes are done. And I'm pulling in the next patient.
And you're going to the next one.
So it's that adaptation of what do I need? What do I need? Well, I need to find a couple of minutes because I'm now patient out, next patient in myself. So I need to now find time for that to happen within the confines of the visit appointment. It looks like, sorry.
No, go ahead. Step
2 is what are we doing within the consultation? What do I leave the room for? So one of the things I noticed last week, for instance, so this is a constant, what do I need? What do I need? The blood pressure cuff they'd given me, the blood pressure machine in my room, I do my own vitals too. It shows you the blood pressure for about 60 seconds and then turns off. Well, that's no good because I'm not watching it. I'm still talking to the patient.
Oh, no.
Okay, so I went into the treatment room and I got the other machine that has a constant display. And so now I can do the blood pressure, keep going. When I'm ready to put that in the file, there it is, ready to go. I don't have to hit a button to get the last result to come up on the screen.
So to me, this sounds a lot like, regardless of what type of practice or practice atmosphere you're in, it is very much an adaptation of, okay, what do I need? How do I best be efficient? How can I shave off 30 seconds here? Or is this the best use of my time in this 60-second window? And so, and I know you have a program where folks can sit with you and go through this, because I think it's easy when, I think it's hard, I should say. I think it's hard when you're living in the inefficiency to see how it can become more efficient. Like, I know my day with my email habits. I've gotten into really bad email habits, right? Where I'm like constantly checking. I know that that's not what I should be doing. I know I should schedule my email time, not get distracted, focus on one. Like, I know these things, but I almost need a human to sit with me and go, Heather, your email times are 10, 12, and 4. Like, this is it. And not, the constant messages and the constant like pinging of the brain, because I think it exhausts you at the end of the day. So it sounds like in your world, you're in this constant frame of this is the amount of time, how can I make myself more efficient? But tell me about kind of how you adapt that to the folks that you bring into your program and you teach.
Yeah. So the great thing about having that clinical day advisor, and all of the ones within our program are all physicians and they're all working. So you know that you're having somebody who's automatically knows the kind of stresses you're under and the volume of things coming in and the responsibility attached to each of the things. So the physicians come in and say, well, I'm a whatever, and this is my issue that I'm having. So I'm a nephrologist and I have to do high volume and I have big numbers to deal with. And I don't have the numbers necessarily when I'm seeing the patient because they just drew the lab. So now what? Right? Mm-hmm. Or I've got to finish this up and then I've got to drive an hour to the hospital and then I've got to see those patients. And so it's the adaptation for them in real time. We're starting to hear what's going on for you. What do you think is the next easy step for you to take towards, I see patients and the notes are done. I see my clinical day. This is when I can fit my inbox in within the time given to me within the clinical day. It's figuring out what's going to work best for you. How do we prioritize? If you only got 20 minutes to do your inbox, what do you need to hit first and why? Mm-hmm. A good answer to that. So for instance, the clinical staff go home at 4. I hear this all the time. They're out the door at 4:03. If I haven't answered those messages, now I'm calling patients to reschedule them or to answer a silly question that could have been easily done by somebody else on my team earlier. But if I'm getting to the questions at 5, the staff have all gone home. Now I'm doing non-physician work. So start noticing those things. What's in your inbox that's not for you? Because you don't have time to just flick off. I had to tell one of my staff, lovely staff member who I've only just got to meet, right, because I'm new to the area. She sent me a message. I answered her back. This is done because I needed to close the loop for her. She answered back, thank you. Well, I had 3 new messages. What are those? They're all thank yous. I'm like, please stop thanking me. I don't need a thank you. I do not need a thank you.
That's brilliant, though.
Right?
Oh my
There's more clicks. I don't want more clicks. I'm like, 3 more messages. What the heck?
Well, or even that communication of, okay, telling people I don't need thank you, but telling people ahead of time, I'm not going to thank you, but it's not because I don't actually appreciate your work. It's because it's another darn message for me.
That's right.
That is like, that right there, I need to implement that in our company.
You too need to implement that.
I adore all of them, the folks that we work with, but there's a lot of thank yous. And I do have that compulsive, I've got one email box or like one unread message. I need to go see that unread message. So I'm already like internalizing things I need to do. I think one of the big things, and I think your program really does a great job with this, is these things change, right? Like what I'm stressed about today is not what I'm stressed about tomorrow. Or, hey, I fixed this problem, but then like you said, something changed and now I've got to adapt that solution to whatever I'm going in. So do folks in your program come and bring those kind of adaptations? It's not like a one and done.
No, they get lifetime membership. So it's a one-time buy lifetime access. So they're in for the life of the program. That means you can come in and get that immediate fix of, everything's wrong. And they start getting some improvement. So I had one physician come in and she just listened to module 1, which is see the patient, close the chart. She listened to that daily for 30 days and she nailed it. So she was at the end of that, instead of having 100% open at the end of the day, she was 100% closed by end of day. She was seeing patients, closing charts. She just stayed there, right there for the first 30 days.
Because she got to nail that one at a time.
She wants to nail that one. And then she said, okay, now this is what I need help with, right? My staff's knocking on my door. Okay, well, let's go fix that. What are they asking? And how do we start to talk to them ahead of time? Like Joe is, 10 minutes late. Will we still see him? Well, you do not want that question in the middle of that high level work of seeing a patient. So who do you need to tell ahead of time? Hey, I need to be out by 4. If somebody comes late, permission to reschedule. Or our policy is we see them no matter how late they are. So don't come ask me. Just put them in. I'll have to deal with it. So just, don't disturb me so that the rest of the day is offline.
But that's really like the rules of engagement. And I think when we have non-standard practices, or you have non-standard practices between physicians, and that may be fine, but then everybody kind of has to have their rules of engagement with their MA or the front office or whatever, so that then you communicate, okay, here are my rules of engagement, right? On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do kid pickup. I have to be out by 4. Like there are no do-overs. But maybe on Wednesday or whatever, I have a more flexible day, and so if that's when you can book me solid. I mean, I think having an understanding of your rules of engagement and then how you communicate those, I can imagine that being. Again, I'm already thinking of all the things I should do, and I don't even see patients. So I'm like, those are good strategies. So I can imagine this being good for any physician. I mean, any kind of practice, whether you're just truly clinical. I mean, obviously that's what you're geared towards, but I feel like these tips could blend itself to lots of folks.
Yeah, that's right. It does. Because we all do this to ourselves, and we're just increasing the mental energy of the day and just using up that executive function so much faster than we could be. And no wonder we're exhausted by the end of day, right? Or anytime we task switch, we're just adding more decisions to the day. So having that decisions ahead of time made for us of when I do hit that inbox, this is what I need to hit first. Or I notice that these interruptions are happening. How do I batch those so that I only have to do that rapid fire quick questions, or I can anticipate those sort of things ahead of time. Or I've already told that person that once, and now I'm telling the other person because they didn't talk to each other. It's like, okay, this isn't going to work for us. Let's figure this out. Yeah. So folks can come in and get that initial assistance, and then things change. Maybe they're going to be new parents. That is a huge one. People used to be really fine, working really hard, and now, no, I got to be at kid pickup on time. This is a new big challenge for me. Or I'm being monitored for my start time, or I'm being monitored for how far behind I'm running, or I'm being monitored for this. Now what? Or we're losing 2 physicians. Now what? So I had one oncologist who is working in an environment where they're making sure the patients are seen prior to chemotherapy. Well, 2 of her physicians left her as one. Now what? Now she really wants to see triple the volume. But at the cost of her sanity, that's not sustainable. So we really did some working around how are we going to use the team we have. So it's a very small team. We had a receptionist and one other nurse. How are we going to make that happen? How are we going to identify Who's in that very full waiting room, waiting on a chemotherapy checkup so that we can go straight to chemo, so that we don't hold up the line? We had to do things in a completely new way. And it was just that problem solving. How are we going to do that? And we're just having that strategizing session so that she could take that back to the team. Then they work on the nuancing and get it working for them. It wasn't what we would sign up for, but it's something that she did actually choose to do for the purposes of looking after this population of patients.
Well, and I think there are short-term and long-term fixes, right? And so, or short-term and long-term problems is probably how I would put it, right? So there are short-term problems and the solution may be one way short-term, and there are long-term problems and that solution may look very different. And so, and I think having kind of the tools to talk through it with somebody, to have access to a group of individuals who can help manage all that, I can imagine how helpful that would be. I mean, I know for myself, I mean, we both know NatRevMD and Dr. Una, and just having a peer network around to manage these things is so helpful. I mean, I actually don't think I would do business without it. So I can imagine also, so I run a billing company, as you know, and one of the things that we have some of our practices struggle with is chart sign out, and it does impact revenue. And just to give the listeners a glimpse, if the charts aren't signed out in time, maybe they're pushed where they're signed out, really close to timely filing, but then there's an eligibility issue, which here in the States means that then oftentimes the physician's not getting paid at all because we didn't have the right insurance information. It's maybe been a few months. And so obviously this is the most extreme situation, but it happens with more practices than I'd like to admit. And so I can imagine implementing these things is not just a sanity improvement, but also revenue compliance, job, security, all the things. I mean, have you seen that with your practices that you help?
Yeah, so one of the members that I helped was having that loss of billing. So the time ticked over, and so they weren't having the income that they would have otherwise been able to have. In addition, so there wasn't that reliable income coming in. We were losing days, so that was the problem. And then the information is so much harder to remember even after that day has gone. So that note is taking you double, triple the time that it might have done in real time. So that ability to record contemporaneously what's going on. And then there's all the reasons why that might not happen. So we have a whole lot of things that you'll notice if you're starting to do this. Oh, okay, let's get this charting done. Sarah said it's possible, so let's give it a try. Then you're like, oh, no, there's a patient waiting. Oh, no, they've just put 3 more people in. Oh, no. So there's a whole lot of things that come up that can start to get in the way of that. And it's okay, how will I solve for this problem? How will I solve for this problem? How will I do this in a way that doesn't take me 3 hours? So remember, we've been taught in a way that it would be delightful to spend a half a day with a patient and do all the things that they want done and have the time to do it all for them and then move on to the next patient. But that's not the reality for what we are experiencing within the appointment schedules that we're given most of the time, or the demand on us if we're in the hospital system. So it's saying, what is a priority for today? Where is the time going? How can I do this in a way that actually gets me done? What is it that needs to be in this note? So you know what needs to be in there for insurance purposes, for billing purposes, for informational continuity. And then there's you and your desire to have a manuscript that's beautiful, potentially. And it's noticing those things and saying, okay, I know what ideal is. Now, what is the best I can do with the time given? And then starting to work towards that. And there is some reconciliation angst about that. You don't want to do it that way because you know that that's not your best. And that's really hard, really hard. But it's the purpose of a note that's created now and signed off. Now all of my colleagues can look after this patient because they know what happened that day. I'm getting acknowledged for the work and get paid for the job.
And I don't lose my mind.
Don't lose my job or my mind. Yeah.
Or my job or my mind. Well, or my practice, right? I mean, because, we deal with a lot of private practices. They set their own schedule. So it's like, they're doing it to themselves. But at the same time, they're doing it for a reason, right? Patient demand or, revenue, needing to keep the lights on or, hopefully making lots of profit, but all the things. So I think, having a tool, having a resource to help you, start thinking through, okay, here's where I'm at, here's where I want to be, here's the steps to do it. Understanding, there may be resources or things you can invest in to help with that, whether it's technology or scribes or all the things, and figuring out where to put money but not waste money. And so I think that's an important thing to understand. And then using those, of course, to, okay, I've solved this problem, let's go to the next. And then also being able to go back and say, okay, I've had things change, right? Like you've had a change with your covering a new physician. Okay, this is going to be in my new process for the next month. I love that. I mean, and I've obviously known about your program for some time now, and I think it's fantastic. So how do people find you and sign up? Because I know I've got listeners who are like, yeah, that's me. This is me. Run now. So how does it work?
Yeah, so they go to ChartingCoach.ca and it's all laid out there. We have charting champions for physicians and we have smarter charting for our clinicians and healthcare providers.
Amazing. Okay, great. I just want to thank you for joining us today and really just having such a practical program. Like this is not, this is what people need. Like this is tools that you can implement immediately and probably see some efficiency gains, and also just for me, just having your mind settled and be at ease. So if you are a physician who's feeling overwhelmed, your inbox is crazy, you've got charts that are unfinished and you're working hours and hours, or even just 1 hour a week extra outside of work, please head on over to ChartingCoach.ca and check out Dr. Sarah's stuff. Thanks so much. And as always, if you guys are enjoying this podcast, please share it with a friend. Please share it broadly so that we can continue to help more physicians who wish to stay independent. All right. Thanks so much, guys.